Good morning. It's Monday, April 3rd, and another baseball season has just begun. And this morning it got me to thinking about how the game has changed over the years since I was a kid. I won't go back to what was happening in 1908 and places like that. Just when I was a kid, and that's from, let's call it like in the 40s to now. And I'm an avid Yankee fan, and I have been an avid Yankee fan for all that time. And in my early years, from 1940-something to about 1957, we had three baseball teams in New York City. You had the Dodgers, and you had the Giants, and you had the Yankees. Many kids who grew up in the Bronx were not Yankee fans. They were Giant fans or Dodger fans, and we had friendly rivalries going on all the time about which team was the best. And it was exciting when the Dodgers and the Yankees played in the World Series, and the Yankees and the Giants played in the World Series. And it was Mickey Mantle against Willie Mays. Those were good times. And so in any event, when you look at a baseball team now, it's much different than the team that I used to watch. In my days, Joe DiMaggio was the guy. And then there was Yogi Berra and Mickey Mantle. And then eventually Derek Jeter and that crew. So I went through all those years. And they were good. I enjoyed the game a lot. But the game has changed drastically. When I was a kid growing up, you aspired to be a 400 hitter. That was a goal that not many ball players made, right? Of course, we always heard the stories about Ty Cobb and hit him where they ain't. And he had over 4,000 hits. And I believe the only other player to reach 4,000 hits was Pete Rose, who was disgraced because he bet on baseball games. And you weren't allowed to gamble on baseball games. And you're still not allowed to gamble on baseball games if you're playing in the major leagues or even the minor leagues, maybe. But now the game has changed. Pitchers are no longer required to pitch 9 innings. I mean, that was never a requirement, but that was what was expected of a starting pitcher. They had to go 9 innings. And if they couldn't pitch 9 innings, then we had a relief pitcher. And that relief pitcher wasn't limited to one batter or two batters. That relief pitcher came in and he could pitch 2 or 3 or 4 innings if necessary. But that's not how the game is played now. Now there are 14 players who are pitchers on the baseball roster. And then there are another 14 players. And that's so you have 28 players on a baseball team now. And that's up from 25. It used to be only 25. And the majority of 25 were not pitchers. You might have had 8 or 9 pitchers on the staff, and the rest of the players played the field. And there were changes that took place over the years, right? Like in 1973, I believe it was, the American League decided that they could have a designated hitter, a guy who didn't have to play the field. He just had to bat. And he took the place of the pitcher who had to hit. Because when I was a kid, Joe Page was a relief pitcher for the Yankees, but he also was a pinch hitter. He could do that. Now, the only player I know that seems to qualify in that same team, is Ohtani, the Japanese player who's a pitcher and a hitter, and an all-star at that. So, things have changed. And then, of course, over the years, they developed the shift, which kept batters from hitting 300. Right now, the 300 hitter is just a statistical anomaly. They don't hit 300 in baseball anymore. And that partly was because of the shift. So this year, they've done away with the shift. You can't shift. You can't have 3 players on one side of the infield anymore. But I'm against the shift. I'm against the change to the shift because I believe that if their team wants to play a certain type of defense, they should be allowed to play it. And the hitter is responsible for being able to do what Ty Cobb said to do, hit them where they ain't. So now we have players who are specialists. Designated hitters, 1-inning relief pitchers, closers. We never had a closer when I was a kid. There was a relief pitcher. And there were pinch hitters. There were some people that made a living pinch hitting, and they never had to play the field. So the game has undergone many, many changes. And one of the changes that really upsets me, I guess, is that when you go to a game, you don't know who's going to be on the field. When I was a young man, I could tell you the entire batting order of the Yankees every day. And it was the same every single day. No matter who they were playing, they had the same batting order. And then that changed. And Casey Stengel was probably the cause of the changes because he developed the platoon system where he had left-handed hitters in the lineup against right-handed pitchers. And then he had right-handed hitters in the lineup against left-handed pitchers. And Hank Bauer and Gene Woodling were the primary platoon players that I remember. And that was the first. And I'm talking about in the early 50s when all of this was going on. So that was a big change where you weren't an everyday player. And Lou Gehrig had a record of playing in 2,130 consecutive games. And that record was finally broken by Cal Ripken, who was a shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles. But I can tell you right now, the way the game is played, nobody is going to break his record because nobody's going to play those consecutive games. Now the players get a day or two off every couple of weeks, or maybe even every week you get a day off, because they want to keep them healthy and happy, and I don't know what it means. I think I would be very unhappy if I had to sit out a game if I was perfectly healthy, right? But that's not the way the game is played now, because the rosters are set up a certain way. The pitchers are only required to maybe pitch to one batter. It's not the game that I grew up on. It's not the game of the Iron Men like Gehrig and Cal Ripken. It's a much different game. And it's not an American game anymore either. We have players in playing baseball from all over the world. Japanese players from the Dominican Republic. Players can come from anywhere and play baseball. And they make it in the major leagues. They're doing well, these players. Look at Ohtani. A star in Japan came over here, and he's a bigger star here than he was in Japan. So the game has changed, and the new rules that they set up for this year will help that because it will make the game faster. The games were getting very boring when they run for 3.5 or 4 hours. So that is a good change, that they speed up the game and they have certain rules to speed it up. So I look forward to the baseball season, and I'll watch the Yankees again, but I'll tape the games and I'll skip through all the commercial bullshit that goes on during the game. Have a great day. Bye.